Welcome to the very first episode in our Sex Magic podcast. I am Primal Piggy. You can find me on Facebook at The Primal Piggy, all one word, or as an admin at Whips, Chains, and Duct Tape, a rather large Facebook page, about 120,000 followers. You can find that on Facebook at WCDT BDSM. Also, find me at BDSM United on FetLife. And let's just get started. Really, we want to ask the question today on this very first episode in this series: what is sex magic? Sex magic means using your sexuality in order to work magic. And later in the series, we'll talk more about magic in general, and we'll do a lot of different magical workings, practical workings that you can do, not just theoretical stuff, even though there'll be a little bit of that right out the gate. So, this technique of sex magic is not new. It's not outrageous, although it's usually kept secret. Many esoteric systems use sexuality for spiritual and magical aims. Examples of such traditions are witchcraft, shamanism, alchemy, Buddhism, and Hinduism, which is like Tantra, and ancient Egyptian religion. Probably more known form of sex magic is the ceremonial sexual union of a man and a woman on the land to ensure a good crop. That fertility sex magic. Their fertility act should encourage the land to deliver a rich harvest. Western sex magic has its roots in the Hebrew Kabbalah and is spread further through several different occult doctrines. We're not basing this series on any specific mystical tradition. We're really encompassing a diversity of them. Now, within an open and a respectful sexual relationship, we can experience ourselves in all of our aspects: the animal part, the human part, and the divine flame within us. During sexual arousal, an enormous amount of energy can be channeled upwards from the genitals along the spine and to the top of the head. On its way up, this energy fills and cleans blockages in the chakras. Now, we'll talk more about chakras in an upcoming podcast. But right now, we're just going to, use the word initially, and we'll further explain it in much more detail in a future podcast. This explains why several spiritual paths view sexual yoga as a shortcut to enlightenment. A lot of different magical systems include elements of yoga, things such as Wiccanism, things such as even Satanism in a lot of forms uses yoga. Aleister Crowley's Sex Magic and Aleister Crowley's OTO and Golden Dawn, they borrowed things from yoga as well. So we got to ask this question: why use sex for magical workings? Why are we even having this very series of podcasts? Well, one, we're having this series of podcasts because a lot of the information, there's like a lot of books on sex magic, and I have most of them in my own personal library. And, a lot of them they tell you that sex magic exists, but they don't tell you how to perform sex magic or how to incorporate sex magic into your BDSM practice. And so that's one reason, but simply because the creative force itself creates very powerful magic. So the act of sex itself creates very powerful magic. Secondly, because it's the most pleasurable magic that one can do. Sex is really pleasurable. It's a lot of fun for a lot of people. Sex magic does not require previous knowledge of ceremonial magic. Anyone who's dedicated to controlling and directing his or her sexual energies for magical work and who has a reasonable physical condition and is able to perform sex magic. You can make alterations and modifications for if you have disability in any way, or if you have any mental and or physical disabilities. Uh, you can definitely modify any of the things that we talk about. But they're saying having the reasonable physical condition to perform sex magic. However, if you don't feel attracted to sex magic, simply don't do it. And never let someone force you into sex magic against your will. Consent is the hallmark of BDSM and is very important in magical workings as well. Practicing sex magic neither implies that you have to give up sex for pleasure, uh, and it's up to you to decide how much sex you wish to use for magical rituals or workings, and how much for purely having a good time with yourself or your partner or partners. So, what's the theory? Just the general overview of the theory behind sex magic. In magic, we manipulate a certain amount of energy into a desired direction. For that, we specify a goal. We raise energy and point it into the wished direction. We release the energy to achieve a manifestation in our physical reality. Let me repeat that because this is a really important one. This is how sex magic, in theory, operates. In magic, actually, all magic really operates in this. In magic, we manipulate a certain amount of energy into a desired direction. For that, we specify a goal. We raise the energy and we point it into the wished direction. We release the energy to achieve a manifestation in our physical reality. In sex magic, we basically focus on a goal by affirmation, visualization, etc. We raise much energy through prolonged sexual arousal, sometimes through edging, and we release the energy at the moment of orgasm. The goal in sex magic can be the achievement or attraction of anything wished in the physical world, evocation, like a new house, a better relationship, or a healing. It can also be the charging of magical tools or talismans, uh, alchemy, and the goal can be spiritual development. This controlled form of lovemaking for higher purposes is often mentioned as the ultimate explanation of Aleister Crowley's famous statement, "Love is the law, love under will." By love, Crowley meant the uniting of the opposites, the masculine and the feminine, the active and receptive, and not so much about romantic love that we're typically used to thinking of as love. Orgasm is considered to be the moment when the gates of heaven open up. For a while, the barriers between the restricted physical world and the limitless heavens or the universe dissolves. During the precious orgasmic moments, we swing away our magical desire into the universe with enormous power. Let's answer this question here. These are some frequently asked questions here. What types of sex can be used for sex magic? And I'm referring to my notes if you see me looking up in the video. If you're watching the video, if you're listening to the podcast, you can just know that I'm looking up at my notes here. What types of sex can be used for sex magic? In fact, any sexual activity can be used to work sex magic, and we'll see a lot of different workings throughout this series in a lot of different, utilizing a lot of different types of sexual activity and sex in general. And so it can be practiced alone, it can be practiced with a partner of the same sex or of the opposite sex. And in advanced sex magic, it's also possible to work with more than just one partner. Uh, Sexuality and spirituality are two sides of the same coin. They both aim at feeling fantastic, being in the present moment, being present, the never ending now, dissolving barriers with other realms, connecting with the divine, experiencing oneness, timelessness, void, and ecstasy. Only their starting point differs. Sex starts. Uh, what am I at here? Sorry. Um, it starts in the lowest chakras, while spirituality is seated in the higher chakras. Again, we'll learn more about chakras in a future episode. So basically, we want to just go over just a few more things, and then we'll wrap up this particular podcast right here. Prepare your working space. Clean the space where the ritual will take place. Decorate it with candles, incense, flowers, gemstones, or anything else you find appropriate. And if you use symbols or other pictures, make sure you can see them during the ritual. If you wish to play music, don't forget to put it on or put on the repeat button, close the door, and lay the phone off the hook. Clean your body. While bathing or showering, you can visualize the water washing off all mental, emotional, and physical dirt. Uh, and then relax. Relax for a while. Take some deep breaths or meditate a little. If you do magic with a partner, you may want to sit opposite of each other, hold hands, and synchronize your breathing, or inhale while your partner exhales. Do banishment, like do something to protect yourselves. It's very important to visualize a strong circle or for instance, like a globe of protection that keeps all unwanted spirits out, or do any other banishment you prefer according to your mystical tradition before you actually start the ritual. Perform the ritual. I know two main routes, one with emphasis on the affirmation, mantra, word of power, and other the emphasis on visualization. Those are two common ones, and we'll explore more of that in coming episodes. Spontaneous rituals. Sometimes your hormones are knocking. There's no time to prepare a ritual, but you still wish to direct your sexual energy into magic. Try this. Quickly imagine a circle of protection. Imagine two burning candles as representation of any ritual space. Dedicate your energy to spiritual development with a mantra like "I open up for my full human potential," or a magical word "open up," or when you're with a partner, something like "I honor your divinity," or just the magical word divinity, and then enjoy and reconfirm the circle of protection. So I know that was a lot. That was a big bunch of frequently asked questions, a little bit of just opening up the topic and an overview of a lot of the different things. We'll move in our next episode a little bit into the history of sex magic, and we'll kind of go from there. We always like to look at history on this podcast because BDSM United teaches nonviolent, consensual, traditional BDSM education. I'm your host, Primal Piggy. You can find me on Facebook at The Primal Piggy, all one word. You can also find me on Whips, Chains, and Duct Tape at WCDT BDSM, also on Facebook. And then you can find us on the web at www.bdsmunited.com. And I hope you enjoyed this very first episode of our Sex Magick podcast.